一起降火气，一起解油腻，一起。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, Van Jones said something on CNN the other day, which is probably perfect to start out this video.
I think that right now, the honeymoon's over. There was a moment where it's like Trump's, goodbye Trump, hello vaccines. We're so glad to see you, Joe Biden. That's kind of how this year started. You think this great stuff that we did is good? It's nothing. Wait until this summer when you're going to get all this other stuff. And then he steps on a rake, and then he slips on a banana peel, and then he falls down the stairs with some marbles, and now people are looking at him in a negative light.
Biden has stepped on a rake and has fallen down the stairs. And Dems are currently looking over the edge of a cliff. Absolutely accurate, but more importantly, we gotta focus on Joe Biden. Friends with Donald Trump every second day was the walls are closing in, the walls are closing in. Donald Trump is an evil, corrupt dictator, and on top of that, a criminal, a corrupt criminal who has enriched himself and his family. Well, it seems as though, once again, what the Democrats accuse everyone else of, they are in fact guilty of. Nobody's been talking about Hunter Biden and his connection to the big guy for a long time, until now. We now have reports that Joe Biden allegedly had joint bank accounts with Hunter Biden and money was shuffling around between accounts. Joe Biden famously claimed that he had absolutely no idea what his son was doing, he was never involved, pleaded complete ignorance to his son's business dealings. But if you follow the money, and more importantly the money trail, turns out Joe Biden might have done something he always does: lie. Turns out Joe Biden might have been implicated in this whole pay-for-play politics scheme that his son Hunter was running after all. And even on top of that, Joe Biden, yes, Joe Biden, may actually be the target of an FBI investigation, experts say. Let me update you guys on everything that's going on. Once again, on this channel, in this community, we absolutely refuse to just memory hole the Hunter Biden scandal, and we will follow the breadcrumbs wherever they lead. We got a lot to get into, but before we do, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so we got this piece right over here from the Daily Wire. Report: associate shuffled money between Joe Biden, Hunter Biden accounts, and the president is a potential target of an FBI investigation, experts say. An associate of Hunter Biden shuffled money between his and President Joe Biden's bank accounts while Joe served as Vice President of the United States, new emails show. Emails obtained from Hunter's laptop and reviewed by the Daily Mail shed more light on the relationship between Joe Biden's office while he was Vice President of the United States and Hunter Biden's consulting firm, Rosemont Seneca. A June 2020 email shows that Eric Schwerin, a business partner at Rosemont Seneca, shuffled money between Hunter and his father's accounts, casting doubt on the president's claim that he had no knowledge of his son's business ventures and overseas dealing. The report also suggests that the president may be investigated by the FBI as part of its probe into Hunter's tax affairs, according to experts. The president continues to deny that he and his son discussed Hunter's business ventures. Past emails obtained by Hunter's laptop, left at a computer repair store in Delaware and never reclaimed, suggest that Joe, while he was in fact vice president, met with multiple foreign officials who worked with Hunter, with at least one meeting being organized by Hunter himself. On June 10, 2010, Schwerin emailed Hunter about taking money out of his father's account to put it into Hunter's. Schwerin said that the president owed his son the money. Now I find that a little bit interesting, and here's probably the one thing: Hunter Biden was a crackhead. In what universe are crackheads the one collecting on debt instead of the ones that are in debt and taking money from everyone else and leeching in order to fund their drug use? Don't you guys find that a little bit odd, that Hunter Biden was sending his father money, that Joe Biden owed Hunter money instead of the other way around? I find that absolutely spooky, but the connections continue to be made. Big guy, we've heard it a million times before. All roads always lead to the exact same conclusion and end destination. His name is President Joe Biden. It started off as word of mouth, but it continues to grow and become more and more each and every single time more emails, more data from the laptop are discovered. Joe Biden and the Democrats use the tactic that you would expect them to, claiming the laptop from hell was just Russian misinformation. That of course has been debunked a million times. Now even Politico and other outlets admit that. We have literal evidence of Hunter Biden facilitating meetings with his then vice president father at the time, and other world world leaders and other people who were connected to his consulting firm. We have transactions of a Russian oligarch sending $3.5 million to his firm as well. We have Tony Bobulinski, that was his name, right? Bobulinski, but Tony Bobulinski, who was a close associate and business partner of them, a totally credible man who went on the record and said everything is true, Joe Biden was connected with all of it, and he's lying on the debate stage. We now have emails from Rosemont Seneca, which was Hunter Biden's place of work, transacting clearly back and forth with his father. Then we have this right here in hot water. New emails uncovered show Joe Biden shared a bank account with scandal-laden son Hunter Biden. And as more and more circumstantial evidence starts to pile up together, connecting Joe Biden as potentially the big guy and his son Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's claim of having absolutely no knowledge whatsoever of his son's business dealings is turning out to be a flat-out lie. If that's not a massive red flag, then I don't know what is. And the total lack of curiosity within the mainstream press is absolutely astonishing as well. And that's why the Bidens can just continuously get away with it. There's again another scandal that people just completely seem to be ignoring. Ex-Obama ethics chief knocks Jen Psaki for dismissing Hunter Biden question. Just shut up, peasants. You guys don't have the right to find out who Hunter Biden's selling his pieces to. Hunter Biden, by the way, selling 5 art prints for $75,000 each as New York City show pushed back. By the way, there's reports of foreign diplomats being at that event. The American people deserve transparency on this potential corruption, potential influence peddling scheme that's happening right before our very eyes. And Jen Psaki's response is essentially what I just said earlier. Shut up, peasant. You don't deserve the right to transparency. Equally as despicable, Joe Biden says he's proud of his son Hunter after selling $375,000 worth of paintings. To which, of course, Jen Psaki once again defends. I mean, it's no surprise she'll literally defend anything at this point.
We at the New York Post reported on Friday that the first son had sold 5 prints of his artworks for $75,000 each, and that a team of lawyers is reviewing the prospective buyers who are going to be allowed into an upcoming New York show. That seems to suggest a departure from the White House brokered agreement where the purchasers would be
Panasonic 极韧奈米水离子吹风机，保湿、抗褪色、抗 UV。现在买 NA01送全新资生堂小红瓶。Panasonic。
I'm 2 minutes away. How can you forget? We've been planning this for weeks.
What up, baby?
This is here, by the way. Wait, what did you guys bring me?
I'll just show you how to get it.
It's fine.
anonymous. I was hoping you could say if the White House knows who purchased the 5 prints and whether there is indeed a departure to the arrangement that there would be anonymity here.
I know this is your favorite topic, but it still is the purview of the gallerist. We still do not know and will not know who purchases any paintings, and the president remains proud of his son.
I don't know about you guys, but I find this incredibly frustrating. The lies, the deceit, the hiding, the anonymous buyers, pieces selling for $75,000 from an amateur artist just because his last name is Biden. The whole thing is just crazy. And of course, I'm not the only one. Hunter Biden's art gallery arrangement is, quote, wacko according to ethics law expert. It's crazy, it's wacko, but they flaunt it in your face, they do it in your face, with almost an expectation of no consequences whatsoever. But hopefully that's slowly starting to turn around as there's a potential FBI investigation which might eventually turn in the direction of Joe Biden. And here's top legal expert Jonathan Turley on Fox News calling for a special counsel investigation into Joe and Hunter Biden's possible influence peddling operation.
Yeah, this undermines much of what the president has said, but it's not the first time. You know, the president has repeatedly said he has no knowledge, no involvement in these investments. That has been contradicted by witnesses and emails. He's referred to in some emails as the big guy, and some of those emails indicate an actual percentage cut was discussed for now President Biden. With these disclosures, we have accounts being used to pay both Hunter and Joe Biden, and money being reimbursed to Hunter Biden from an individual associated with a company called Rosemont Seneca. The question is why the Justice Department hasn't considered the appointment of a special counsel.
Now generally, if you smell fish, then it's probably fishy. And just like they spent $35 million to investigate Donald Trump based on phony, salacious information, or the Steele dossier and all of the leaks, they should investigate Joe Biden and the actual credible potential link to this scheme. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. Like usual though, I gotta get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I don't know about you guys, but at first Joe Biden and his administration were frustrating. They were making me frustrated. It started off as frustration, now I'm just pissed off. Imagine you own properties, let's say you're a landlord, and you hired someone or you have someone who works under you that you're supposed to trust, who's in charge of maintaining and keeping those properties in order. He let the grass grow as long as can be, there's mold, water damage, not cleaning anything, it's all disgusting. And you end up losing a ton of money. That's essentially a metaphor for what Joe Biden is doing to the economy. Then imagine confronting that individual or trying to find some answers, some sort of responsibility. The same individual a couple weeks ago said the buck stops with me, yet continues to deny reality, continues to not take responsibility, even claims that it's a good thing. Complete lies to your face, blame shifting, and pretending as if it's not happening at all. That's exactly what this administration is doing. That's why it's going from frustrating to absolutely infuriating, and it's just pissing me off. You know, Donald Trump wasn't perfect, but Donald Trump never treated you like you were stupid. The way this administration is responding to crisis, controversy, scandal, and criticism is exactly how an immature child would. It's not my fault, it's everybody else's fault, it's not happening. And let me show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the videos as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so the first thing that we have to address is just how this administration continuously says we're on the job, we're on the task, we're seeing big improvements. Jen Psaki and Joe Biden have said that so many different times. We're seeing improvements, we're on the right road, things are getting better. They say this as literally everything is getting worse. There hasn't been, I think, even a single quarter where things have gotten better. It's been progressively worse, whether it's jobs, people fleeing the job market, the stock markets, inflation, supply chain issues. It doesn't even matter. Whatever the issue is, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. They've been breaking records each and every single month or every quarter. The Biden effect, inflation is up 5.4% in September over last year, the highest rate in 13 years. Heather Long tweets, inflation was up 5.4% over last year in September, the highest rate in 13 years. Prices rose 0.4% in September, up from 0.3% in August. Gas, food, and goods continue to be key drivers of inflation. Used car prices fell slightly, but will remain at 24% higher than last year. And see, here's where, once again, the argument that we have been seeing from Joe Biden's administration falls flat on its face. They've stated specifically inflation doesn't really exist. The number is inflated, pun not necessarily intended, but they claim that the inflation rate was in fact inflated by air travel, hotel prices, and of course the biggest factor being used car prices. Well, now we're seeing used car prices go down, but everything else go up. Here's a journalist on Twitter putting it into perspective.
Are you paying more for items? Gas up 42%, bacon up 19%, hotels up 18%, beef 18%, pork up 13%, eggs up 13%. It is all going up. How much more are you paying? I'm Dave Bondi. I'm a news anchor in Michigan. I'm giving you all the news as it happens.
And also here's Leo Terrell showing gas prices in what I can only assume is California.
Wow.
Now, of course, none of this is news. Most of you guys are desensitized, you've adapted, you have absolutely no choice but to adapt. But see,
美味 SOP Simple 简单料理 Open 打开屏
inflation getting worse isn't the news. That's not what I'm trying to point out here. That was our prediction, that it would continue to get worse and most likely persist all the way to 2022, 2023. This is pretty much all as expected. You know what's despicable? How the Biden White House knows that it's a problem, yet they send out spokespeople who show up in the media and try to tell you that somehow inflation is good for you. Biden White House Chief of Staff believes inflation and supply chain crisis are high-class problems. These absolute clowns. It's a high-class problem, what are you even on about? The current situation is absolutely perfect for the billionaire class to expand their billions. Guess who makes a whole lot of money when inflation runs rampant? It's the top 1%. Guess who makes a whole lot of money during lockdowns? It's the 1%. Guess who makes a whole lot of money during recessions? It's the 1%. The Democrat Party can no longer identify as a party for the working class. They have lost that title. I mean, this stuff is just absolutely despicable. real. Take a look at this headline from the Washington Post. America needs higher, longer-lasting inflation. We all remember the article that got absolutely roasted, ratioed beyond measure, claiming inflation was a good thing, while clearly they didn't get the memo that the people aren't buying the crap that they're trying to sell. Inflation is a good thing. In what universe is inflation and a supply chain crisis a good thing for regular Americans? Billionaires are getting richer and richer and richer. Your salary is getting lesser and lesser and lesser in respect to the scale of dollars. And then on top of that, the fact that you're being paid less, everything is getting more expensive. So even if you're getting paid more, your buying power is much less. And now the federal government is telling Americans, expect your heating bill to soar big time this winter, as much as 54%. 54%. Just expect it, take it. CNN telling you don't expect for shopping to go back to normal. And the current White House taking absolutely no responsibility whatsoever. Jen Psaki responds, "We're not the Postal Service, UPS, or FedEx." Jen Psaki, when asked about supply chain issues delaying Christmas deliveries, "It's not our fault." Really? The cost of energy soaring is not your fault? The cost of gas soaring is not your fault? After Joe Biden attacked domestic oil production, I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with you guys. But what about the new federally imposed jab mandates from tyrant Biden? Does that maybe have something to do with the bottlenecks? Of course not. We're not UPS. Jen Psaki's response, "Don't blame us. We're not the Postal Service, UPS, or FedEx." Even though Bloomberg is reporting worker jab mandates raise transportation bottleneck fears. You think there's a correlation? No, of course not. Why would there be? Joe Biden takes office and then all of a sudden, a couple months into his administration, hashtag empty shelves Joe is trending on Twitter amid Biden's supply chain crisis. You've seen empty shelves before based on panic buying during the early days of the COVID pandemic. This is not due to panic buying. This is something else. I mean, for Pete's sakes, even a Democrat Obama economic advisor Larry Summers can clearly see the reality.
I actually see closer parallels to the situation in the 1960s that set the stage for the 1970s. We've again got a very expansionary fiscal policy combined with loose monetary policy. We've again got a central bank that is heavily focused on social objectives rather than on avoiding inflation. And we've got much larger budget deficits today than we did then. We've got much more in the way of supply bottlenecks emerging much sooner than we did then. So I think we're looking at a very serious kind of situation.
A central bank that is focused on social issues instead of economic. If that is not a recipe for disaster, then I don't know what is. And speaking of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, piles on to the disingenuous rhetoric coming out of the Biden White House. Janet Yellen gets called out after claiming proposal for IRS to get bank account data is about holding wealthy Americans accountable. So the Democrats sneaking into their bill a provision that allows the IRS to spy on your bank account, your PayPal, your Venmo, for any account that has over $600. $600 is really about holding wealthy Americans accountable. You know, the people who would be able to skirt all of this stuff and probably have offshore bank accounts. It's really about them. It all feeds into the constant grift that we see from Democrats. They claim to be for the working class, yet all they ever do is enrich the corporatist class at the detriment of the working class. They'll increase your taxes, make you pay way more for way less, and tell you they're helping you. They'll create an environment for the greatest transfer of wealth to the billionaire class ever seen in American history, and they'll tell you it's a good thing, you're saving lives, keep doing it. They'll spy on your $600 bank account, making sure you're paying every penny in taxes, because their priority is Jeff Bezos. Give me a break. They treat you like you're stupid because they think you are. They view you as nothing more than a plebeian, the serving class, and have fantasies of being communist oligarchs. That's the reality. I don't know about you guys. I'm definitely not an economic expert, but I do not feel safe and I feel like a storm is coming. These people are crooks. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I gotta get back to work though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, I used to like Joe Rogan because he just seems like a chill guy, willing to discuss ideas, willing to defend free speech. But my like for Joe Rogan is evolving into something much greater. Joe Rogan is becoming the guy. It started off as he had an impact in the culture war, but at this point he's almost leading the charge. You know, we tend to clown on celebrities and NBA players, sports players in general. Ex-celebrity has such a big platform, such a responsibility, they have to use it. And then LeBron James opens his mouth and it's a total disaster. But with Joe Rogan, it's not even a meme. He's the guy who can get Dr. Sanjay Gupta from CNN to sit in front of him and absolutely toast the guy, full on barbecue the guy, and not only have an effect in the culture war, but have a seismic shift effect. Folks, millions upon millions of people have seen this one clip, and it is changing people's perspectives on CNN and the media apparatus as a whole. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, but for those of you who haven't, we'll play the clip. I'll give you guys my analysis, my commentary. We'll probably transition into some different topics as well. The overarching theme being CNN sucks. But of course, it's not just CNN. We'll try to look at the whole picture. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. With that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so without further ado, let's just play the clip and then we'll talk about it.
Horse dewormer's not a flattering thing, I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing, that's a lie that they're conscious of. It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Well, the FDA put this thing out. You saw that. Did you see that thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse, you are not a cow, stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it making
Nobel Prize.
winning the Nobel Prize in 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, mother. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is.
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine. Like, here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got it right here. All right, hang on. See, the thing is, we're like going so fast. Like, I feel like I'm missing.
Do you think that's a problem, that your news network lies?
No, I don't.
Dude,
what did they say?
They lied.
What did they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
They
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking it, the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease, and as you say, it's probably, I think what, 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on
you
the
have
ledger.
You have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was yours? You're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did. I watched.
You know, we always refer to the exact same analogy, the same metaphor. A deer caught in the headlights. This is the exact problem with the corporatist media class. Sanjay Gupta is the medical guy, the science guy at CNN. He's the guy that liberals kneel to as some sort of medical genius, medical god, and everything that he says is gospel. Knowing the fact that this is supposed to be equivalent to the health minister of CNN, you can just tell how hard he's self-censoring. He doesn't even want to talk about it. He's trying as hard as he possibly can to steer the conversation conversation elsewhere, using politician-like tactics to try to somehow worm his way out of this. And I'll tell you one thing, Sanjay Gupta absolutely 100% unequivocally regretted sitting down face-to-face with Joe Rogan. Joe doesn't have anything to lose. Joe's not a corporatist shill with a CEO puppet master above him telling him what he can and can't say, what lines can and can't be crossed. Joe Rogan can do and say whatever he wants, and if he thinks you're full of it, he's going to take it straight to you. But really, what's incredibly interesting about this little interaction here is the fact that Joe Rogan is challenging Sanjay Gupta, who's the health guy at CNN, on all the bogus stories that CNN, of course other liberal outlets, have been pushing when it comes to the whole horse dewormer meme that we've covered a million times. And all of the information that we have been speaking of openly that we know is fact, Sanjay Gupta just pulled out of the back of his head. Don't you find it interesting how when they cover it online writing articles or when they're in front of the camera during their nightly news shows, they talk about the horse dewormer from a political perspective and use it as an excuse to attack the right. They use it in a partisan, despicable manner, while the entire time they all know the actual facts of it. They know the facts so well that Sanjay Gupta can, off the top of his head, pull out all of the data and all of the numbers, clearly having a full-on understanding of what this, quote, horse dewormer is, yet choosing to report on it completely inaccurately and use it as a political weapon to attack and slander people on the right side of politics, or people on the center, or people who aren't falling for left-wing cult propaganda that CNN is disseminating to the masses. This is the can of worms that Donald Trump opened, folks. He exposed them for what they are, guts and all, and the snowball just continues and continues to roll down the hill, pick up steam, and grow to enormous size. And really, just think about the damage, think about the context. Not even necessarily from the freedom of speech element, which of course we've covered a million times, but not being able to have an open dialogue with lefties and to have the media establishment and the social media establishment crack down on free dialogue when it comes to science and medicine, not even be able to speak about particular substances that may actually save lives. Democrats continuously virtue signal about how they're trying to save lives. They're trying to save your grandma. Republicans find a study maybe like this one. Meta-analysis of 15 trials found that ivermectin reduces risk of death compared with no ivermectin. Average risk ratio of 0.38, 95% confidence interval 0.19 to 0.73. Moderate certainty evidence, meaning there's potential, and this isn't just some random article, this is a medically reviewed journal. Just take a look at the individuals. PhDs, chemistry majors, doctors. We're talking about legitimate stuff, the American Journal of Therapeutics, from July and August 2021. Yet we can't even have this conversation, and you have these absolute fools in the media who use it as a political attack, who completely twist the narrative and continuously push this propaganda that it's some sort of veterinary paste meant for dogs and horses. They're absolutely despicable, corrupt propagandists, liars, and it's so bad in fact that even from March 31st, 2021, on the World Health Organization's website, the WHO advises that ivermectin only be used to treat COVID-19 within clinical trials. If it's a horse dewormer that's only supposed to be used on animals, then why is it that it's being used on humans in clinical trials? Their own sources even debunk them. These corporatist talking heads with clearly no integrity whatsoever who have sold their souls to the devil while putting on a fancy suit with nice clean white teeth, a big smile from ear to ear, pretending as if they're such friendly, compassionate, incredible human beings. But they're liars, and not just little white lies, destructive, despicable, morally reprehensible, society-breaking, divisive lies. Take a look at what Sanjay Gupta tweeted after his one-on-one with Rogan. I walked into the lion's den and spoke with Joe Rogan on his podcast for more than 3 hours. The jabs, ivermectin, and much more. Friends tried to get me to turn down his invite, but ultimately I'm glad that I did it. You're glad for what? Tried to play off as if it was just an innocent conversation. You got exposed as a corporatist, propagandist, lying, CNN Democrat operative. And what's even worse is now knowing the fact that you're pushing politically motivated misinformation. It'd be one thing if you were a little Brian Stelter, but you're not. You're CNN's chief medical correspondent, and you prove to everyone that you cannot be trusted. You have no integrity. Snakes in the grass, folks. They pretend to be virtuous, they pretend to be good people, but they are anything but. They pretend to be virtuous, they pretend to be good people, like I said, wearing fancy suits and a big smile, but they're liars. I just mentioned Brian Stelter. The network that pushes falsehood after falsehood and pits Americans against each other is the same network promoting this absolute clown, Brian Stelter, promoting his new book, Hoax. You know what's a hoax? You know it's a dangerous distortion of truth? The way you and your compatriots at CNN covered the whole ivermectin story. You know it's dangerous misinformation and a distortion of truth, trying to convince tens of millions of Americans that Donald Trump was somehow a Manchurian Russian puppet candidate. And they do it while slapping you in the face. They push misinformation while writing books on how evil misinformation is. They divide the country and even promote medical misinformation campaigns in order to pit Americans against each other. And while all of this stuff is going on, you see CNN talking heads on Twitter tweeting and retweeting, virtue signaling about how bad division is and how badly divided the country is and how people don't trust in the media anymore. Why? Because of Donald Trump and his war on journalists, while pushing the most despicable distortions of truth. Joe Rogan just exposed the whole thing. You saw it for yourself. A medical correspondent who refused to have an open medical discussion because he's a paid partisan shill who would rather be dishonest than collect millions from CNN instead of telling the truth, having dignity, and doing the right thing. These people have sold their souls to the devil, folks, and it's very clear to see. That's what I got for you, though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, and comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. I gotta get back to work, though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You guys notice how all these far lefties seem to have a very deadly combination of total self-righteousness on issues, while at the same time simultaneously having a total lack of understanding of the issues they preach about? I'm sure we all remember this beautiful clip from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in 2018.
This issue. You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
Let me make a declarative statement about the occupation of Palestine. Classify the Israeli government as extreme as you possibly can, an authoritarian state who are occupying and oppressing a subclass, while literally in the exact same statement claim, I'm not an expert on geopolitics, I'm not an expert on this issue at all, but I will make these grandiose declarative statements. You know, I'm not an expert on the Middle East either. I don't know the full history of Israel and their conflicts with other Middle Eastern countries. So for the most part, I keep my mouth shut. Far lefties, however, have absolutely no idea how to do that, and will have an opinion and try to lecture you on everything, regardless of how clueless and uneducated they are. And here we go again, we have another moment just like that beautiful AOC moment from 2018, this time with the founders of Ben & Jerry's from Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream. I'm sure you guys have been paying attention. They've taken a very, very significant stance in the culture war. They have taken the stance of total far lefty activism, but when push comes to shove, when it affects their bottom line, they look like absolute fools who don't actually stand by what they believe in, and they got totally exposed on Axios on HBO. Let me show you guys. They were asked a very simple question and were left absolutely speechless. One of the most hilarious moments I have seen. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers, and with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so just take a look at this. I don't really have to say too much, the clip will speak for itself.
Disagree with the Israeli government policy, why not just stop sales completely?
Well, I disagree with the U.S. policy. We couldn't stop selling in the U.S. I think it's fine to be involved with a country, to be a citizen of a country, and to protest some of the country's actions. And that's essentially what we're doing in terms of Israel. We hugely support Israel's right to exist, but we are against a particular policy.
You guys are big proponents of voting rights. Why do you still sell ice cream in Georgia? Texas, abortion bans. Why are you still selling there?
I don't know.
Did you see the look on their face? It's very easy for Ben & Jerry's to say that we're not going to sell our ice cream in Palestinian-occupied areas, or I guess what lefties describe as occupied areas. I'm sure there's not too much Ben & Jerry's being sold in those areas in the first place. But when it comes to domestic business, they take a hard stance against the state of Texas and other areas. But when questioned, why are you still selling your ice cream in Texas? Why aren't you boycotting there? Just like you're boycotting in the Middle East and you claim we will not sell places that we are morally disconnected from. They don't have a single answer. And of course, that's because they're full of it. It's the same corporatist grift that we've seen for the last 5 to 6 years, but it's getting played out. I'm so sick and tired of these lefties. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's becoming comical. Well, remember this meme right over here. This essentially sums up the entire ethos of the left. What is clearly a far lefty activist, a laptop that says smash capitalism, but of course nothing says smash capitalism like a $7 coffee beverage from Starbucks and a totally overpriced Mac. Apple, the company that sells $2,000 PCs for $6,000 to overly privileged New Yorkers and San Francisco types. Give me a break. It's the same thing we always see Cori Bush, who's a climate activist, camping out at the steps of the Capitol with a 20-pack of Oreo minis, plastic water bottles, a plastic Walmart bag, plastic, as far as the eye can see from left to right. And these are the people who are claiming that they are protecting the environment. It's a joke. I always make this comparison, but it's true. Every single liberal that I know buys those big packs of plastic water bottles. Me, the terrible conservative who doesn't care about the environment, I have a water flask that I carry around with me. I'm the evil man who doesn't care about the environment, and they're the liberal do-gooders. Give me a break. They are absolute hypocrites. And it's on nearly every single issue. There's a reason why far lefties never want to debate. They talk a big game on Twitter from their $2,000 MacBooks, but when confronted on the actual issues, they respond in 2 very specific ways.
I don't know.
I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
Yet they lecture and lecture and lecture how terrible the capitalist system is. Yet they all live in New York and California. They're all consumers. And I don't mean just a regular consumer, not the word consumer, the meme version. Consumer, who play into the cheapest marketing tactics and do nothing but consume and consume and consume and lecture the rest of the world on why they shouldn't be consuming. Why do you think Ben & Jerry's got into this grift in the first place? Clearly, you can tell their motives are very profit-oriented. All you gotta do to increase your sales by the millions in liberal areas and liberal cities is pander politically, slap a flag or 2 on your product, and the liberal reaction will be as follows. It's basically as simple as that, and these corporations have figured out the grift. You know, we say get woke, go broke a whole lot of times, but honestly, I don't think they'd be doing it. I don't think they'd be getting woke if they were going broke. Maybe we underestimate the consumer class. I mean, the majority of these people are already $100,000 deep in student loan debts. Clearly, they're not making great financial decisions. They're probably liberal in their politics and probably also liberal in their use of their credit card. $100,000 in student loan debts, Netflix, Disney Plus accounts, $300 a month on Ben & Jerry's, filling their office space in their home with Marvel paraphernalia, massive Infinity Gauntlets that are multi-purpose in their case. I'll leave that to your imagination. While tweeting from their MacBooks that the world is gonna end in 9 years if we don't do something about it. I mean, give me a break. You know, I'm all for it. This idea that conservatives and Republicans want to destroy the environment is a joke. I, just like anyone else, want clean air. I don't want to destroy forests. I want to live in a beautiful, clean earth. But I, as someone who is more common sense oriented, know that if you solve a problem, first of all, you should probably use the free market, and second of all, you should go for the actual core of the problem itself. Just in, China mocks climate activists around the world as it announced plans to build more coal-fired power plants and increase oil and gas exploration to grow its own economy, as the free market is working within the United States and in the European Union. In fact, the United States is making great strides in being more environmentally friendly through innovation, through capitalism. Democrats want to attack attack the free market and absolutely absolve China of any wrongdoing whatsoever. These people are completely out of touch with reality, and the simple fact of the matter is, they don't know what they're talking about. We gotta somehow get to a point in politics and a point in culture where the adults in the room are allowed to speak and the children are relegated to the kids' table. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I gotta get back to work though. I wanna thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left, or in this case, exposing the absolute atrocity that is liberal policy. Folks, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a very results-oriented individual. I need to see tangible results. When you pay your taxes, when you participate in society, when you elect someone into office, you should get something for that. Let's say, for instance, if you pay $100 for a product and then all you get is a slap in the face, well then, what are you doing with your life? That's essentially a metaphor for being a Democrat and living in a Democrat city while voting for Democrats. You vote for them, and then what do you get? You get pretty much all the problems that made you vote for that individual in the first place. It's a self-perpetuating cycle, the same thing over and over and over again. And of course, the craziest part of all is these lefty voters, after everything we've seen, after everything we've covered, after everything they are living through, they continue to stand by their votes. Friends, we just covered a couple months ago that Walgreens was closing, I believe, 17 stores, maybe it was 9, I don't know, something like that. Let me search it up really quick. Walgreens in San Francisco was forced to close 17 stores because shoplifting had become so rampant due to Democrats' soft on crime policy that they had absolutely no other choice but to straight up just close their doors. And that's a massive operation, a massive retail corporation that couldn't sustain through the hit. Imagine small business. Well, it just got even worse. Walgreens has now closed an additional 5 Bay Area stores amid another shoplifting surge. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Let's get into the liberal dystopia that is San Francisco, that is California as a whole. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. With that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, here's the headliner piece. Walgreens closes 5 Bay Area stores amid shoplifting surge. That's 17 plus 5, now 22 Walgreens have closed in the Bay Area due to the absolutely rampant surge of crime. Crime that has been literally decriminalized, so I guess it's not even crime anymore, due to the city sanctioned theft. Products under $900. I mean, absolutely crazy stuff. The ongoing shoplifting surge has forced Walgreens to close 5 more San Francisco stores as local law enforcement continues to do next to nothing to curtail the problem. In a statement to SF Gate, Walgreens spokesperson Phil Caruso confirmed organized retail crime has strangled San Francisco stores. Organized retail crime continues to be a challenge facing retailers across San Francisco, and we are not immune to that, Caruso said. Retail theft across our San Francisco stores has continued to increase in the past few months to 5 times our chain average. During this time, to help combat this issue, we increased our investment in security measures in stores across the city to 46 times our chain average in an effort to provide a safe environment, he added. Asha Safai, San Francisco Board of Supervisors for District 11, admitted to feeling devastated over the closure of a Walgreens store that has been a staple for seniors, families, and children for decades. I am completely devastated by this news. This Walgreens is less than a mile from 7 schools and has been a staple for seniors, families, children for decades. This closure will significantly impact this community. Very important choice of words, impact this community, of course, in a negative sense. Democrat policy is doing exactly that. They claim to care about working folk and communities, yet their policies do nothing but, quote, devastate them. I mean, when is San Francisco gonna wake up and take action? We're not just talking about a kid stealing a candy bar, we're talking about theft so rampant, the shelves are empty. Here's an example. This is what the stores look like. And it's not because of the coof pandemic, it's not supply chain issues, it's just straight up wipe out theft. Here's reporting on the issue from back in October 21st.
Empty shelves at this Walgreens drugstore, and it's not because of pandemic-related panic shopping. Now the store is closing due to what local reports are calling a spree of rampant shoplifting. And look at this. Just 15 minutes after an Inside Edition crew showed up at the drugstore, we found this guy jumping over the front counter, taking an airbed, and leaving the store on his scooter. No questions asked, no one stopping him. The drugstore is the third Walgreens to close in San Francisco this year, and there's real concern that the people who live there are losing an important resource for their neighborhood.
Brazen during the day, not a second thought, not even a thought in the world for any type of consequences. Walk in and take everything and walk out. That clip that I just showed you guys was from October 21st, 2020. So in 1 week, that will be a year ago. Democrats in California have had ample time to do something about it. This is a willing decision to ignore it entirely. And the reporter said the drugstore is the third Walgreens to close in San Francisco. That was about a year ago. That number went from 3 to 21 at this current point in time. Democrats have done nothing. And of course, it continues to ramp up here in Santa Ana. I showed you guys this clip the other day. We'll play it again just for those of you who maybe didn't watch that video.
Oh my God, we're getting just serious.
So we can do it. I bet you can do this. Move.
The same thing's happening now except for prescription drugs. What do you think happens with those? They end up on the street and further exacerbate the opioid crisis. And how long are Democrats gonna get away with this mismanagement? Because that's exactly what it is. This is a deliberate choice. You know, when we were covering the Gavin Newsom recall election, Gavin Newsom kept going on about the California economy, just how great it's doing. It's doing real great for Mark Zuckerberg, but regular folk are being shafted. Small businesses, of course, getting shafted, but probably most importantly, taxpayers are being absolutely abused. These two headlines will essentially sum up San Francisco for you. San Francisco run homeless encampment costs $60,000 per tent. A new low for San Francisco, $20,000 designer garbage cans. Hey, there's feces and needles all over the place and rampant crime, but hey, at least the city's Gucci garbage cans look pretty cool, don't they? I mean, if that was allowed to pass through, pretty soon people would be stealing those and reselling them on Craigslist and eBay. Democrats have completely lost their minds, and it's no surprise that the number of people who are planning to leave California and specifically San Francisco continues to rise. 56% of San Francisco Bay Area residents plan to leave in the next few years. 56%. A new poll suggests that the majority of San Francisco Bay Area residents are unhappy with life in the liberal bastion and want to leave soon, with 56% of respondents saying that they plan to leave in the next few years. According to SFGate, the poll, conducted among 1,600 registered voters across 5 Bay Area counties by joint venture Silicon Valley for the Bay Area News Group, found a shocking 71% of respondents said that the quality of life in the greater Bay Area is worse now compared to 5 years ago. 56% of respondents said that they are considering leaving in the next 5 years, including 53% of respondents who work in the tech sector. And so really the question that I have is, how is it even remotely possible that Democrats are still getting elected in San Francisco? If you have a majority of the Bay Area electorate looking around and saying everything's going to hell in a handbasket, who are they blaming? Donald Trump? I seriously don't get it. It's almost Stockholm Syndrome. I mean, scratch that, it is Stockholm Syndrome. The San Francisco electorate is the wife in an abusive relationship. California Democrats are the abusive husband, but for some reason, the electorate just won't file for divorce and continues to take the abuse. What is going to be the tipping point? If fecal matter and hobos everywhere and syringes, businesses closing because of that, and of course the crime, if that's not enough to make you rethink your situation, then I don't know what is. Of course, the only thing that I hope is if over 50% of San Francisco residents plan to relocate, if you're relocating in the state of Texas, Arizona, or New Mexico, Florida, or anywhere else, please, for the love of God, leave your California politics in California as you migrate elsewhere. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I gotta get back to work though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, folks, Democrat panic continues. Following districts, following polls, we've been talking about flips a whole lot. Districts that are flipping from one specific political party to the other, and in some cases, flipping for the first time in decades. But what do you notice is the trend? When's the last time we covered Republican district flips for the Democrats? I mean, one example could be the state of Georgia. Swing states going one direction or the other is a basic phenomenon, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at specific voting districts, the trend is very clearly flipping from Democrat to Republican. House seats in the 2020 election tell you all you need to know. Every single toss-up going in the Republicans' favor will once again, another shift towards the right side has Democrat strategists shaking in their boots. Republicans just flipped a Iowa House district in an area that's been held by Democrats for 46 years. Very similar to what we saw in McAllen, Texas. And see, this is where the Democrats, in my opinion, are screwed. Working class communities, white suburban and white rural voters have had enough with the Democrat Party. They were disappointed by Obama, gave the Democrats another chance with Joe Biden, and look where that got them. So let me update you guys with the rightward trend. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so here's the headliner piece. Republicans flip Iowa House district, an area held by Democrats for 46 years. Republican John Dunwell defeated Democrat Steve Mullen in a special election, the second state legislative flip for GOP this year. Thank you, Jasper County, for putting your faith in me to be your voice in the Iowa State House, John Dunwell said in a statement. Throughout this campaign, I've had the honor of hearing from so many of you, those who agreed with me, and those who offered opposing viewpoints. I have learned so much and I'm eager to work representing each and every one of you. Iowa House Speaker Pat Grassley celebrated the win. And see, this right over here is one of the most important things that the GOP needs to be paying attention to. More specifically, this is what Donald Trump needs to be paying attention to. These districts, and more importantly, the demographics that live in these districts, should be the #1 focus of Republican campaigning going forward. Moderate Democrats, independents, and white working class, and whites without a university degree voters. Now, Washington neocons, of course, they're going to play the Democrats' game. They're going to play into all the culture traps. Democrats are going to call them racist, and then Republicans are going to try very hard to not seem racist. To absolutely no avail, it's not going to make a change within the electorate. Donald Trump's political strategy needs to not focus on that whatsoever. Don't play defense to the Democrats' slander. Just target the working class with actual policy, and the game is over. The jig is up. Now, for the most part, Republicans haven't been making gain in that most important voter bloc. But what's important here is there is now an opportunity. Republicans haven't made gains, but Democrats have had huge losses within the exact voter space that Republicans need to win elections going forward. A great example is what's going on in the Virginia governor race, where the Democrat McAuliffe is seriously underperforming in respect to how Joe Biden did in the state. And now even CNN is full throttle covering that race, trying to sound the alarm for the Democrats. Take a look.
I'm historically an independent voter. I have voted every which way you could vote.
Amy Dodson is not defined by political labels.
I was not a fan of President Trump. I didn't vote for him, and I didn't vote for Biden, but I did vote.
That makes her an important wild card in Virginia, where she cast her vote early this week, for one reason above all.
What led me to vote for Glenn Youngkin this time around was education.
Education is a central issue in the final stretch of the closely watched Virginia governor's race, where the power of the parents' movement is suddenly front and center.
How nervous are Democrats? It's just 3 weeks before the election. Election night.
Don, significantly, 3 weeks from tonight will be election night, and they are really sending in everyone. We learned earlier today that former President Barack Obama will be coming to Richmond, Virginia in about a week and a half or so. First Lady Jill Biden coming. A lot of other surrogates. Democrats are very worried about this. They thought Virginia was a solidly blue state. They are learning that may not be the case at all. Of course, Terry McAuliffe's been around a long time. Glenn Youngkin, the outsider, the newcomer, is really catching on here. So the next 3 weeks are very critical, at least in the eyes of Democrats, Don.
If that's not political panic, then I don't know what is. A couple weeks from the election itself, and the polls keep on tightening. Keep in mind, these are all polls that favor Democrats highly. Here's one of the most recent ones from the Watson Center, with Terry McAuliffe at 49% and Glenn Youngkin at 45%. Joe Biden won this state by 11 percentage points. And what's probably most shocking for the Democrats is that Terry McAuliffe can barely even scratch 50%, even on the polling aggregate. Take a look at the polls for the last 2.5 or 3 weeks. McAuliffe at 48, 49, 49, and 50. and the gap continues to shrink almost even within the margin of error. His average is 48.8%, meaning if the Republican ends up overperforming, which it seems as though it might, and independents, or undecided voters, which generally are independents, move away from the Democrat candidate, then we are looking at the potential of a total upset victory for the Republican in Virginia. More and more swing districts in the most important areas are very clearly moving away from the Democrats. I mean, historically, losing footing in the state of Iowa is bad news. Republicans overperforming across the board is even worse news. And when CNN is playing total damage control, then that's even worse news for the Democrats and better news for Republicans. I mean, at this point, CNN is basically doing activism for the Democrats instead of real news coverage. Take a look at this. CNN's stelter, Dems aren't in disarray, Congress is in disarray and failing.
It's essentially the same story.
Well, one of the phrases I always hear these days, of course, Dems in disarray. It's a meme, it's a joke, but it's also said seriously all the time. The Democrats are in disarray. Is it more accurate to say it's Congress in disarray? Congress is failing?
Absolutely. And when we say Dems are in disarray, it gives like a political game chips to both people, right? It allows someone like Manchin Sinema to go to the White House and have all this unbridled power, because then it becomes this like Aaron Sorkin power play, or people make jokes about Veep in the briefing room and I'm in the back like needing more Advil because I just don't have a tolerance for it anymore. But you're actually able to change the shape of what actual negotiations are when we use the phrase like Dems in disarray, and we don't just say, why isn't Congress working, Mr. President?
And just one brief point here. Congress in disarray, but Congress is being made to be disarray by one group of Congress people. It's by, by the Republicans are saying we're going to use the threat of a filibuster with our minority to hold up this crucial thing for the world economy.
It's not the Democrats that are in disarray, it's the Republicans' fault. Folks, that's neutral reporting from your friends at CNN. That is literal Democrat activism. That is total propaganda, not to mention a complete lie, considering the Republicans have nothing to do with any of this. The reason Democrats can't pass reconciliation is due to the fact that they can't get it by their own Democrat senators, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. The reason they can't get the infrastructure bill passed is, of course, because of the progressive Democrats who are refusing to vote on it until a $3.5 trillion deal is passed. Republicans literally have nothing to do with any of it, but CNN, of course, is attacking Republicans and trying to make the claim that Democrats are not in disarray, as they are completely dysfunctional, fighting each other, blocking each other, and unable to pass a bill with a simple Reconciliation 51 majority. If that's not Democrats in disarray, then I don't know what is. If Terry McAuliffe now loses Virginia, or barely squeezes by and gets a tiny victory, after Joe Biden won the state by 11 percentage points, and if Democrat districts continue to flip Republican across the country, especially in the Rust Belt and in the Sun Belt, then the Democrats are toast. It's pretty much as simple as that. The early prediction that we have been making of 230 plus seats going to the Republicans in the 2022 election is seeming more and more likely each and every single day, and the best way to gauge that is by paying attention to Democrat infighting, Democrat panic, Democrats trying to scramble and change their message to seem more moderate as they continue to sink with the voters that matter. Republicans seriously need to get their act together and target white working class voters, mobilize them, focus on their issues, and finally take power away from these Democrats. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I gotta get back to work though, and I thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The phenomenon has officially gone global, and pretty soon it's gonna go universal. It's become so powerful that pretty soon we're gonna get transmissions from alien planets with a very simple message: let's go Brandon, which of course is code for F Joe Biden. Folks, it's transcended sporting events, protests, bars, and now it's transcended even borders, as a massive group of protesters in the city of Rome in Italy chant F Joe Biden or Let's Go Brandon while passing the US Embassy in Rome. So we are going to talk about two specific topics in this video. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on across the world. We'll talk about Joe Biden's popularity, of course, crashing into nothingness. But in terms of policy and actual political analysis, I want to cover the weakness of Joe Biden on the foreign policy stage. I mean, Pete's sakes, he's making Obama look strong as he continues to surrender across the globe. We got a lot to get into, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers, and with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so here we go. Let's start off with the meme before we get into any of the serious nitty-gritty political stuff. Let's Go Brandon goes global. Protesters in Rome chant, "Let's go Brandon," as they pass the US Embassy. And so you guys know that I'm absolutely enjoying this phenomenon, mostly because my prediction was right. This Joe Biden is more than just a political protest, and it's more than just partisan. It is a legitimate sentiment that's completely taking over. We are seeing some unprecedented stuff. This whole Joe Biden phenomenon, I think, can be described in political terms by strongly disapprove. You know, generally when you're polling approval rating in politics, there's strongly approve, somewhat disapprove, or strongly disapprove. Usually there's a little bit of an even split between all four of those categories. But with Joe Biden, we are seeing something unprecedented. 50% of Americans, quote, strongly disapprove of President Biden's job approval. Now, seeing 50% disapproval is one thing. Seeing above 50% disapproval and near 90% of said disapproval being in the strongly disapprove category, not seeing an even split between somewhat disapprove, and I don't know, that's craziness. I have never seen that in my time of looking at approval ratings. This sentiment can be very easily described by one sentence that you're hearing reverberate across the world. Let's go Brandon. You see where I'm getting at with this? Trump hysteria was manufactured. It was media propaganda specifically created to warp the mind of politically susceptible individuals to then mobilize against Donald Trump. For the most part, people have common sense. Democrat, liberal, independent, whatever you want to call it. And most people weren't falling for all the anti-Trump hysteria. Maybe they didn't like him or his policies or his personality. They were able to see the good and the bad, and a lot of people would say, I somewhat disapprove, I'm kind of in the middle, I guess I disapprove. But even with all of the manufactured outrage surrounding Donald Trump, you never saw 50% of Americans polled, and of course, Democrat-leaning polls with majority Democrats, 50% strongly approving of Donald Trump. Joe Biden, well, let's go Brandon. And when it comes to this phenomenon of let's go Brandon, I really don't think it's going to get much better for Sleepy Joe. Let's talk once again about independent voters. When you look at Democrats and their voting priorities, it's generally healthcare, the environment, racism, etc. But when you look at independent voters and Republican voters, there's a much heavier overlap. The economy and national security are two of the top issues with those voters. Well, let's go over Joe Biden, who's bringing the Obama foreign policy doctrine, except much worse. Biden gives aid to Afghanistan after Taliban refuses to work with the US to contain ISIS. Instead of using aid to apply pressure on Afghanistan and the Taliban, who are now ruling it, imposing economic sanctions, holding aid back, and saying if you guys don't play the game, then you won't get the funds, Joe Biden caves and gives an untold amount of money to the Taliban who have taken over Afghanistan. The US drops Donald Trump imposed sanctions against 2 Iran companies. We saw the Obama administration deliver billions, pallets of cash to the Iranians. The absolute disastrous Iranian nuclear deal. Donald Trump came in, did the right thing, and Joe Biden immediately screws it all up. His decisions are not only making America look more feeble and more weak, but also presenting increasing national security risks to the nation. Afghanistan is just the start of it. So that's national security, and let's just say he's not doing too good with independent voters. Next, of course, is the economy. Joe Biden is unable to meet major challenges on clogged ports and snarled supply chains. If anything, his policies are making it much worse, and now we know that 88% of small business owners are hurt by supply chain disruptions. CNN is running damage control for the Biden administration, saying Americans won't be able to go shopping like in the before times. And so look, some people would say, well, what does Joe Biden have to do with any of it? Even though we know his policies are directly connected, even if he wasn't, at the end of the day, he's the president. Like Joe Biden said himself, the buck stops with him. If things go astray under Joe Biden's administration, he's gonna get blamed for it, and he is. And let's just say the rhetoric coming from the White House isn't exactly inspiring to independent voters. Jen Psaki says the quiet part out loud. Biden wants to make fundamental change in our economy, and he feels coming out of the pandemic is the time to do that.
The president wants to make fundamental change in our economy, and he feels coming out of the pandemic is exactly the time to do that.
I think with most adult individuals of sound mind, when you think about fundamentally changing the economy, the absolute last word you want to hear in that same sentence is the word Democrat, and even beyond that, Joe Biden.
In 2020, more than 2.3 million restaurants jobs disappeared. 2.3 million restaurant jobs disappeared.
Of course, now we're getting hints of the Great Reset, as the Democrats are trying to usher in an age of new socialism. I don't know about you guys, but I think most Americans don't want socialism. I think they want an economy that works. But honestly, what it seems like the Democrats are trying to do here is purposely sabotage the economy and then point at it and say, see, capitalism did that. But is it really capitalism? Of course not. It's almost as if they want to destroy the economy and then come in swooping in as big government saviors. Democrat lawmakers rely on handing out expensive welfare to win 2022 midterms. May seem like a conspiracy theory, but is there any other explanation for what the Democrats are doing right now? The anti-capitalist rhetoric, what seems to be almost intentional economic sabotage, consistently saying this system of capitalism or the American economy isn't working. It's not working for everyone. Vote for us and we're going to spend trillions upon trillions of dollars to fix that problem. The only thing that they're not telling you is that problem was created by them in the first place. I mean, going back to the COVID pandemic, who devastated the economy? We absolutely know the answer. They tell you it's to save lives, but is it really? You know, Jen Psaki just the other day accused Abbott and DeSantis of putting politics ahead of public health and preventing the saving of lives. Well, if you look at the numbers in Texas and Florida, once again, without the draconian measures, once again, without absolutely obliterating small business, it seems as though things are under control once again. Yet they will continue to feed you this narrative as if they're your allies and they're just trying to help you, while simultaneously ushering in the greatest transfer of wealth to the billionaire class, possibly that we have seen in modern history, maybe world history, I don't know. I'm not a history expert, but it's certainly one of the worst. The billionaire class enriched themselves to the tune of nearly $1 trillion at this point. It might even be above $1 trillion, mainly on the back of Democrat policy, yet they have the audacity to claim that they're working for you, or to claim that the economy needs reshaping, fundamental restructuring to benefit you. Are you really buying it? And do you think that Joe Biden is the man for the job? Or do you think it's just another Democrat scheme to make you further subservient to government, more dependent, as the wealthy corporatist oligarchs continue to enrich themselves to the tune of trillions of dollars? I don't know about you guys, but I'm smelling a rat, a Democrat. That's what I got for you. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I gotta get back to work though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. There is nothing more unpopular in the world of politics than a career politician. Why is it that the president is relegated to only 2 terms in office? He can only serve 8 years. But in the Senate and in the House, the same thing doesn't exist. We see literal political fossils who have spent their entire lives, in some cases from youth all the way to Mitch McConnell's age, serving in government for their entire existence, and in many cases with absolutely nothing to show for it. I mean, it's the exact same faces for the last 10 to 20, even 30 years. The same identities, the same faces, are essentially the face of the American system. And of course, 2 of the worst offenders, Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi, said some pretty interesting things to the media in the last couple of days that of course we have to analyze. 2 power-hungry politicians who refuse to relinquish power, pulling the strings of Washington behind the mask. Let me show you guys what they said, let's analyze it, but before we get into any of it, today's video is brought to you guys by a sponsor, so let's play that clip. This video is brought to you guys by our friends here at the Liberal Hive Mind, ExpressVPN. Personal privacy, the 4th Amendment. Your rights to privacy are being violated nearly each and every single day. Massive corporations are harvesting and selling your data every single second of every single day. The only way that you could protect your anonymity and your privacy on the internet is with a virtual private network, otherwise known as a VPN. It's essentially a email system that allows you to connect to the internet through different nodes. And along the way, the best part is your your data will be encrypted, meaning tech overlords like the Zuck won't have access to your data, at least not easily. ExpressVPN is by far one of the best VPNs out there, rated on multiple different websites as the #1 VPN in the world. And also a great part about using a VPN is that you can now access geo-restricted content. If you want to watch South Park on Netflix, the only way you could do that is by logging into UK's Netflix. Well, an easy fix. All you gotta do is sign up for ExpressVPN, download the app, click connect from the UK, and boom, you now have full access to the UK Netflix catalog. It's basically as simple as that, folks. Access the TV shows you want and protect your data at the same time. I mean, talk about double benefit, but actually it's triple benefit because ExpressVPN is offering liberal hive mind viewers 3 months free if you sign up with a link down below. Check the link in the description or go to www.expressvpn.com/hivemind to figure out how you can get 3 months free of ExpressVPN. Of course, like usual, a massive thank you to our sponsor. Back to the video. Alright, so a huge thank you to ExpressVPN, and now back to the video. Alright friends, so speaking of power-hungry politicians who just refuse to go away, Hillary Clinton says, "I will never be out of the game of politics."
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man!
Our democracy is at stake.
I believe you said it's up to us to make sure the plot stays fictional. After writing this, any interest at all in getting back into the game of politics?
I will never be out of the game of politics. I'm not going to be running for anything, but I really feel, Amy, and I know George was interviewing Adam Schiff before, I really feel like our democracy is at stake.
And so there's a couple interesting things in what she just said. Firstly, to go back to the whole term limits thing, that if anything feels insufficient. The reality is Hillary Clinton is arguably more powerful and more influential than 99.9% of the Senate and the House. Maybe Nancy Pelosi ekes her out or at least comes close. The reality is Hillary Clinton, even being out of politics, is still able to make seismic shifts within the world of Washington. And here's where the second thing that she said is so relevant. She immediately mentions Adam Schiff, the same kooky Democrat who launched Hillary Clinton's war on the 2016 election. For years, Hillary Clinton was not a senator. She wasn't working in the Obama administration for at least 2 to 3 years at that point, even despite the fact that she was not holding a specific title or seat within Washington. She was able to mobilize the FBI, the CIA, media organizations. Her, the DNC, and Perkins Coie were able to get a phony FISA warrant that then you paid for, a $35 million investigation paid for by taxpayers to try and unseat a duly elected president and have him impeached. And so really the question is, how do you root out these corrupt political dynasties, these deep state families and groups that are able to mobilize the federal government and federal agencies to do their bidding? I mean, of course, it continues to happen to this day. What do you think the whole January 6th committee is? Adam Schiff says those who don't cooperate with the January 6th committee are going to be the subject of criminal contempt. I mean, the irony is absolutely incredible. After 4 years of Hillary Clinton and Adam Schiff mobilizing their minions and attacking democracy, attacking the results of an election, they now stand on the stage and tell you that they are the only individuals who can protect democracy. Democracy needs to be protected from them, and really no one else. Talking about criminal contempt, coming from 2 literal criminals. It doesn't get any more ironic than that. Hillary Clinton, we know, did something illegal. Now, there's a whole lot of speculation that she's done a whole lot more than that, but we have legitimate evidence that she operated an email server that was actually illegal. Adam Schiff, we know, once again, lied in Congress and completely misrepresented the phone call that Donald Trump made in order to hype up the impeachment of Donald Trump that they were pushing for. Literal criminals trying to criminalize their opposition. Literal anti-democratic political goons telling you they're trying to protect the sanctity of democracy. It's a complete farce. A corrupt political class operating almost a shadow government behind the scenes. A group of individuals who have mobilized industry, agencies, and probably most deadly, mega media corporations to spread their misinformation, phony dossiers, phony accusations, straight up propaganda to the masses, in order to then justify warrants and justify the persecution of their political opponents, whether it's Donald Trump or Trump supporters in general, as we're seeing right now, being persecuted as domestic terrorists. And it's always the little snippets that give it away, the Freudian slips. In the same line with Hillary Clinton, here's Nancy Pelosi essentially admitting what we all knew, saying the quiet part out loud.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Our latest CBS News poll shows that only about 10% of Americans describe themselves as knowing a lot of specific things that are in the reconciliation package, and that the majority don't know anything at all. So do you think you need to do a better job at messaging, and going forward, how do you sell this if ultimately you have to?
Well, I think you all could do a better job of selling it, to be very frank with you, because every time I come here, I go through the list. Family and medical leave, climate, the issues that are in there. And, but it is true, it is hard to break through when you have such a comprehensive package, but
I think you could all do a better job of selling. Imagine the level of entitlement, essentially acknowledging that the media is a totally corrupt entity, and implying that the media should be selling what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats are offering. This is why Donald Trump was such an important figure. You know, people always ask me, why do you like Donald Trump? Faults and all, warts and all. He exposed this entire system. How social media, Washington are all working together in conjunction to continuously expand their grasp on power. That's why. Because the option is Donald Trump, who may say some unsavory things at times, or may get himself into a little bit of trouble, but at least it's not Nancy Pelosi, who just recently said this.
again, in fact, when people ask me, if you rule the world, what one thing would you do? I think about that a lot.
If that doesn't make the point for me, then I don't know what will. Democrats who are absolutely hell-bent on control. What you can and can't do, what you can and can't say, what you can and can't put in your body, where you can and can't go. More government dependence, more government control, less autonomy, and less freedom. Term limits might be step one. So term limits might not fix the problem, but it's about a continuous step in the right direction. Donald Trump exposing the media machine and the Washington machine was step one. Term limits might be step two. Step three, I think we've yet to figure out what that one's gonna be, but at the end of the day, if you have a diagnosis, and in this case it's a political deep state disease, the diagnosis is the first step to finding a cure and of course rehabilitation. And that is exactly why I always refer Donald Trump to being a political white blood cell. He's the one who identified the disease, and the people, and of course the massive red pill and great awakening, are the antibodies forming around said virus. And so I'm just gonna end this video by saying, Hillary Clinton, please do us all a favor and please just go away. Go to the woods that you retreated in after losing the 2016 election fair and square. Well, actually not exactly fair and square. You lost even when the deck was stacked in your favor. Against all odds, the Donald Trump immune system gloriously wiped you out. That's what I got for you though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I gotta get back to work though. I wanna thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. While far lefty activists continue their campaign of ensuring that the American populace and industries as a whole start to turn their backs on them. Folks, we know the political pendulum is swinging, but we are getting more and more evidence each and every single day that the cultural pendulum is swinging as well. And as we know, based on the doctrine of the late great Andrew Breitbart, politics is downstream from culture, hence the meme. Well, we might be living through the cultural shift, as far lefty activists and Democrats in general have alienated everyone. I mean, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. Let's put it into metaphor, which is what we usually do. Democrats, and especially the far lefty base, are essentially like the rich, spoiled kid who has everything. A loving family, a mom and a dad, a beautiful home in a nice neighborhood, everything is right. But the kid himself is spoiled, angry, full of angst, disrespects their mother, etc. Where conservatives maybe come from a less fortunate background and are pleased with what they have, are grateful for the blessings that they have, and appreciate them. Far lefty Democrats have everything. Massive corporations, culture, celebrity, the media, social media, politics, Washington. The entire machine works for them, yet all they ever do is attack their own allies. It gets to the point where their allies are just saying, listen, we've bent over backwards for you, we've done everything, we change our logo depending on what month it is to show solidarity with whatever cause you want us to. We've implemented ridiculous HR tactics and diversity programs, and you just continue to try to destroy us from within. And so I think we are finally starting to see the cultural corporate revolt against the unsustainable dynamic of far lefty politics that has infiltrated everything. And this story coming out of Netflix is just the beginning. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on, but before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so take a look right over here. Netflix suspends 3 employees, including an individual person who spoke out against Dave Chappelle for crashing leadership meeting. Netflix has suspended 3 employees for crashing a meeting of its top executives, including an out person who criticized a new comedy special from Dave Chappelle, sources tell Variety. Tara Field, a senior software engineer based in San Francisco, was among those suspended late last week for attending the QBR, Netflix's quarterly business review, a 2-day affair that convenes the top 500 employees at the company. Field, who identifies as a special individual, and the other employees were not invited to a virtual gathering according to the insiders. And so it's once again an example of far lefties completely overstepping boundaries and alienating the exact people who have handed them their platform. You're talking about Netflix, for Pete's sakes. The same streaming platform that greenlit and promoted the show Dear White People, a streaming platform that is completely bent over for the woke crowd at the cost of their profits. Then they give their platform to a black man, Dave Chappelle, to voice his concerns and to speak his opinion, and you have white latte liberals crashing executive meetings trying to cancel Dave Chappelle. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You know, movies and fiction, it's good and all. Nothing is more entertaining than reality. We are living through a very special timeline, I'll tell you guys that much. The more this stuff happens, the more Dave Chappelle and other celebrities start to say, man, screw this. I am done capitulating to the woke mob. The more corporations are going to realize, man, what have we been doing? Bending, twisting to the will of woke academia and the cultural Marxists. For what gain? You know, I still don't see it. I wish I could see the actual numbers. For a couple years now, I've been trying to convince myself that there has to be something that they're gaining here. You know, Disney and these other platforms who have gone woke beyond measure, and I mean, speaking of measure, they must have some sort of metric to say it's working. The more woke we go, the greater our profits become. But I don't know if that's actually the case. I think we are getting to the point where corporations are just gonna say screw it and start going the route of being apolitical and not getting involved in all of this nonsense. I mean, just think about a couple months back. The state of Georgia passed voter ID, and these mega corporations got involved in a woke crusade in the state of Georgia against voter ID. I mean, at the time, covering the news cycle, we cover it, then it's gone, immediately memory hold. But it's not until you reflect on it and realize just how crazy that is. Why is Coca-Cola waging a war on voter ID? Something that pretty much across Western democracies is just baseline common sense voter law. And the further that we descend into clown world, the more these executives, the more celebrities, people in general, I think are starting to think to themselves, we have been living through some sort of weird idiocracy. The more the left starts to alienate everyone. Here's more evidence. David Wayans says Dave Chappelle freed the comedy, quote, slaves to PC culture. Take a look at what he said. And just before I play the clip, the audio's a little bit scuffed. I'll try to do the best that I can in post-editing. So it's a very loud, busy airport, just bear with me. Try to listen to what he had to say.
So I wanted to ask you, where do you stand on the issue? How do you feel about the special? Should it be cancelled? Anything like that?
I feel like Dave freed the slaves.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, the comedians. We were slaves to PC culture, and he just, you know, like, as an artist, he's Van Gogh, at a zero, and he's trying to tell us it's okay.
So going forward, can you be a bit more risque, or are you more free to be yourself, are you saying?
I've always been free.
Right.
This is the most important quote. You're no longer free in this country. You're no longer free to say what you want. You will say what we want you to say, otherwise we will cancel you. Sounds extremely similar to what Nicki Minaj was saying a couple weeks ago. Falls right in line with the t-shirt that Rihanna was wearing, think while it's still legal. And probably most importantly, sounds very much in line with what we and other conservatives on this platform have been saying for years. Do as I say, or else. Do as I say what I allow you to say, or the woke mob will descend on you like a group of killer bees. It's unsustainable. People, entities, culture have tried to be as polite as possible to the woke mob, tried to appreciate and listen to what they were pushing, but I think everyone is reaching their limit. Speaking of limit, corporate America reaches limits on implementing CRT in the workplace. Goldman Sachs appears not to be alone in drawing the line in its CRT wokeness. Executives at Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and yes, Dimmons JP Morgan all claim that they are not advocating CRT as part of their diversity training. The big banks saw how foolish American Express, the mega profitable credit card company, looked recently when Chris Rufo of the Manhattan Institute reported how the company had forced its employees to take an anti-American, anti-capitalist CRT bias training. He writes, Amex continued to ignore Gasparino's calls and emails on the matter. CRT is also counterproductive. Big companies, giant investment banks rely on teamwork, he added, claiming CRT divides people among racial lines between oppressors and the oppressed. We need people to get along, said one executive at a big bank that has cleansed CRT from training sessions. I mean, bravo! The irony of the whole situation in the first place, totally paradoxical in nature, how massive corporate capitalist entities seem to have taken sides with unabashed Marxists, not only cultural Marxists, but economic Marxists, and we're somehow expecting it to be a fruitful venture. I think people across the spectrum, from small business to big business, to Hollywood to culture just in general, are starting to realize just how exhausting and ridiculous this quote woke revolution has been, and the cultural pendulum is swinging back with full force. At least we're seeing a little bit of evidence that adds, of course, to that hope. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I gotta get back to work though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The Washington establishment is getting real nervous. You know how I always compare Donald Trump to a white blood cell in the bloodstream that is Washington? You know how I know that? Anytime Donald Trump is starting to gain steam, and he becomes a clear imminent threat to their power, the viruses in Washington start to freak out. The white blood cell that is Donald Trump is coming to clean house. And this is where you make absolutely no distinction between Democrat and Republican. Washington's swamp creature is a Washington swamp creature regardless of political identity. And oh boy, you can tell they're getting real scared. They tried taking him down with the whole January 6th thing. Republican neocon establishment types were trying to test the waters, hoping that Donald Trump would be losing steam and they'd be able to reclaim the party that they believe is theirs. Oh, how their tune shifted real quick. And here we go again. We have proof as to just how disingenuous they really are, these absolute political snakes who pretend to be on your side, pretend to represent you in Washington, but whenever they get the opportunity, they backstab you and the man that you support. And so moments like these, folks, there's a reason I cover them. These are the most important events to catalog, to not immediately memory hold, but to rather keep in a database, because when it's re-election time, when it's time to primary, you need to know who's real and who's a snake in the grass. And so of course, let's cover that exact topic, the snakes in the grass that are rhino Republicans. Let's cover Democrat panic, because of course that exists too, as Donald Trump and the Trump train carries on full steam ahead, and Washington is real desperate to stop the inevitable. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers, and with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so take a look at this headline right over here. Most Senate Republicans don't want to see Trump run again. Senate Republicans, with a few exceptions, are hoping that former President Trump does not announce his intention to run again for president. These GOP senators definitely don't want to see Trump announce a bid before the 2022 midterm elections, fearing that that could sink their hopes of winning back the Senate. More broadly, they're generally reluctant to see him on the ballot in 2024 at all because of his track record with independent and swing voters. Several Republican senators who requested anonymity to discuss Trump frankly said they don't want to see Trump return as the party's standard bearer. I think we're better off when he's not part of any story, said a Republican senator who said his view is widely shared in the GOP conference. He's a clinical narcissist. He threw away the election in the debate with Biden, and he threw away the Senate out of spite, the lawmaker added, referring to Trump's first against Biden, which many Republican senators viewed as a disaster in his influence on the Republican voter turnout in the Georgia special election. And so I don't want to read any more of this. Let me give you guys my perspective. I have never seen a group of people who are so delusional and so out of touch with their actual influence within American politics. It's funny because if you look at the last 10 to 15 years, the Republican Party was on a serious decline. If Donald Trump didn't step up in 2016, Democrats would have 3 SCOTUS picks, Hillary Clinton would have won, and the culture shift and this massive conservative movement that's frankly worldwide would have never been kickstarted. The Republican Party was headed towards demise. Republicans had become a soccer ball that was being kicked around in the media, getting absolutely destroyed in the culture war, and the only person who turned that whole thing around was Donald Trump. These zero charisma political hacks think that they would be able to compete in the modern sphere of politics with a Jeb Bush piece of toast type character with a stick up his rear end, thinking he'd be starting any type of movement whatsoever. I mean, give me a break. Donald Trump resurrected them from inevitable irrelevance. And what do they have to do to thank him? They're trying to throw him under a bus, using the 2020 election as an excuse. The 2020 election, which was a complete historical anomaly with everything going on, and of course the Monday night quarterback phenomenon of shoulda done this, coulda, shoulda, woulda, any one of you, quote, Republicans, would have been absolutely decimated beyond measure in the last 2 elections, not to mention, who really sabotaged the Georgia 2020 Senate race? Was it Donald Trump? Absolutely not. It was a fracturing and a loss of faith in the Republican establishment. What hurts the Republican Party probably more than anything is all the political backstabbing. The media tours after January 6th going after Donald Trump and trying to oust him from the party, the constant backstabbing, playing Monday night quarterback, we should have done this and should have done that, instead of analyzing the current situation at hand. Donald Trump is the Republican Party, whether you like it or not. And of course, once again, we're seeing Republicans self-sabotage. It's almost as if they want to lose. Biden approval rating tanks, and he'd lose to Trump in 2024 polls. We've already covered this. Donald Trump is more popular and winning in a head-to-head matchup against Biden. That's called political momentum. And this phenomenon that they're referring to, of Donald Trump being unpopular with independent voters, well, that's a phenomenon that is clearly shifting. I mean, based on the current metrics, who's more popular with independent voters? Joe Biden or Donald Trump? Donald Trump continues to become more popular as Joe Biden is cratering through the ground. Instead of capitalizing on that, instead of forming around your party leader who the American electorate, the Republican voters, unanimously support, these Republicans are trying to once again throw Donald Trump under a bus in a desperate attempt to gain back political relevance. The neocon days of old died with George Bush and Dick Cheney and are never coming back. It's time to wake up. Instead of adapting and joining the meme war and help push a more populist conservative message, as I like to refer to it, making conservatism cool again, finding winning messages and changing the party's outlook, they act like desperate, cranky political fossils trying to maintain their grasp on power. It's pathetic. But of course, pathetic aside, it's a hopeless endeavor. You better get with the program. You better jump on the train or the train's gonna leave you at the station covered in dust. These Washington elitists just don't get it. And there's one specific phenomenon that's connecting neoconservative fossils and Democrat politicians. Democrat Jayapal says it's terrifying that the GOP won't tell Trump he cannot be the leader of their party. These people have completely lost their minds. In what universe do Washington snakes get to dictate who the American people get to choose as their leader? I mean, what a premise. The GOP won't tell Trump